Hey, thank you so much for joining me. Today we are talking about how to have a difficult conversation. I love this conversation. I love this topic. As a conflict consultant, as somebody who specializes in conflict and helping people collaborate, this is like my forte. Now, this video series that I'm about to plunge into with you, it was actually spurred on by a client of mine who asked me a very simple question. How do you have a difficult conversation with somebody and still maintain respect afterwards? Great topic. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much there was to talk about in this. So we're going to go over a couple different steps that I would advise taking. And we're going to go into some really in-depth content with all of this. And why would you want to have a difficult conversation with somebody, first of all? That's a good question. Well, one, if you want to maintain a relationship, perhaps it's somebody that's in your life that they're always going to be there and you want to have a relationship, at least something where you can at least just converse with, right? Or maybe you want to hone your skills in in dealing with people in general. I mean, you could have multiple reasons for this. The skills that we're going to be talking about in this video are incredibly valuable skills to have. So I encourage you to stick with me through all of these and pick up what you can and leave what you don't need. And yeah, let's just get started. So the areas that I'm going to talk about in these videos, first of all, are going to be knowing yourself, preparing for the conversation, listening, asking questions, and basically just mindset. In my experience, most of the time, people, they have a difficult time with the emotions that arise when we're triggered. So, when you're having a conversation with somebody that has different ideas, different perspective or beliefs than you do, it can often trigger those emotions that could even be uncontrollable at the time. So that's the hard part. That's the messy stuff. And that's what we're going to dive into and, develop some skill around so that you can navigate these conversations in a much better, effective way. Okay? So, how do you know yourself? Well, I'm not talking about some airy-fairy, hippy-dippy, which I love that stuff, by the way. We're not talking about this new age type of lingo here. We're talking about knowing yourself in the sense of your strengths and the areas that you could improve on. We all have belief systems. We have our own value systems and belief systems that help us navigate through life. And we're also human, so we don't know everything. Even if you think you do, we don't know everything. And that's the way it should be. We're supposed to learn while we're here, right? So I like to refer to belief systems as a scope of reality. Like it's this vision, this visual area that we see through life. When I was a kid, I had this cool little toy. It rested over my eyes. It was like a visor, and it had these circular discs that you could insert into the top. And the disc had slides around it. So when you inserted the disc, you clicked the little button and it advanced it, and eventually you could see a story play out in front of your eyes. Love that thing. Well, as an adult, I realized that that's pretty similar to how people view life, view through their scope of reality. So say one disc is how your family influenced you, and another disc is the choices that you've made in life, the career that you've chosen, the relationships that you've chosen. Maybe another disc is the failures that you've experienced in relationship or otherwise. All of that shapes who you are. And this is your scope of reality. This is what I refer to as scope of reality. So as you're growing in age and learning and experiencing new things, you have these slides over your vision that are shaped and influenced by all these layers that you've gone through, these lessons that you've experienced. And this is who you are now. So you want to enter into a conversation with somebody who has a different belief system. You also have to realize that they also have a different scope of reality than you do. Doesn't make it better or worse. It is how it is. So unless you want to go in trying to prove that you're right, then I would suggest approaching it in a different way. So you've got your scope of reality, and it's been influenced by all these things. Something to be aware of. And again, we're human. The things that I'm about to talk about, your biases and fallacies in logic, those are really common. These are very, very common for all of us to do. And knowing them is going to help you in the future. Not only to identify your own influences and errors in logic, but also you can now identify them in other people, right? So biases. Biases are where we show an inclination in our prejudices. It's how we're affected and the opinions and, like I said, prejudices that we have towards something else or another person or group of individuals. So there's a lot of these, and I'm not going to talk about them today. I'm only going to give you 2 examples to just kind of illuminate what I'm talking about. First one is confirmation bias. Super common when we have our own belief systems and we come across information that is either agreeing with what we believe or is not agreeing with what we believe. We will either accept it or reject it. Confirmation bias is talking about how we tend to appreciate the feeling of the confirmation of, oh, somebody else also agrees with me. I like that feeling. I like feeling like, oh yeah, I'm right. So people tend to agree with what they already agree with. That's confirmation bias. And also, I'm not an expert in this, but I'm sharing this with you today, so please do your own research. The second one I wanted to share, super common, hindsight bias. And, the best way I can talk about this is by giving you an example. So say you're in a car accident. You don't see that coming, but as you experience it and you go through it, and afterwards, when you look back on the experience, you realize, you know what? I knew that was going to happen. I saw that car and I had like a feeling that whatever. That's hindsight bias. You didn't know it was going to happen, but because it did happen, you believe that you would have known. So kind of a catch-22. I mean, how often does that happen in our lives? That's pretty common. All right, so the next area to suggest you do your own research around is something called logical fallacies. This is errors in our own logic or errors in our own critical thinking. 2 examples of this would be slippery slope and hasty generalization. So slippery slope, I actually did this the other day and I caught myself because I realized what I was saying. It's when somebody takes one example and because they don't want it to happen again, they try to prevent it from happening any further. So the error in logic is that you think that because it happens once, it'll keep happening, but that's not necessarily the case. So then I guess, so slippery slope. The next one would be hasty generalization, and that is when you don't have all the information, but you want to have an opinion, you want to have a judgment, so you just form one without having all the information. I mean, aren't these common to you? They're pretty common. So knowing all that stuff is going to be really helpful. The last area that I want to talk about in this is intuition. And this is such a fascinating area of our human development for me, because like Albert Einstein said, intuition is the highest form of intelligence. I love that quote. Basically what it's saying is, or basically what intuition is, it's absolutely knowing something without knowing why you know it. And that is totally different than a mental process. That is, it's what I call a felt sense. So intuition is when you feel something resonate within you, or feel the truth of it within you, and you don't know why. Everybody has an intuition. Whether you develop it or not is up to you. To prove that everybody has an intuition, I will point to gut feeling. Gut feeling is, you probably don't want to put yourself in a dangerous situation. You're not going to want to walk down that dark alley, right? So your gut instinct is causing a physiological response in your body to tell you, don't go down that alley. That's a form of intuition. Intuition is a way of receiving information. It's just not in the typical way that we receive information through our other senses. There's a language that you can develop around your intuition so that you know when you're getting more truthful information. Whether it's true intuition giving you a message, or it's your ego giving you information and tricking you into thinking that that's intuition. Whole other topic. But I'm pointing out these 4 areas because these are really important key elements to who you are as a being. And they shape your scope of reality. So knowing these is going to help you. It's going to help you know who you are so you can firmly plant your feet in your beliefs, in your opinions and judgments. And you can present those to the world and be confident in that. So this is all about you and how you are going to present your opinions in the conversation. Next up, the next video series, we're going to do how to prepare. So you're going to take all the information that you've collected in this video and you're going to go into the next one. And I would love for you to join me because it's just another step in the whole process. So if you'd like, please click the subscribe button so you can follow along with all my videos. And I'll also, in the description below, I will include all my social links and all that stuff. So if you feel like connecting, please do. Love to hear from you. And I wish you the best in the future, and we'll talk soon.